Nithyanandam, everyone. Let's start this segment with the Sadguru Vandanam, inviting everyone to please sit straight with your head, neck, and spine in a straight line with the deepest of gratitude. Nithyanandam Paramashivoham Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrusham Tattvamasya Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Nithyanandam, everyone. I trust I'm audible to all of you. So, a really warm welcome to everyone that is at the moment connected via YouTube, Facebook, in any of the Zoom sessions that you're in. Welcome, and all other online platforms where we are live. Welcome to all of you. Those of you who are meeting me for the first time, my name is Ma Nitya Atmadayananda, and I'm the head of KAILASA UK. So we have with us once again KAILASA's permanent ambassador to the United Nations, Her Excellency Ma Vijayapriya Nithyananda. And we will be having other guests also as we go along into the session. So, of course, with the grace of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, delegates from the United States of KAILASA have been at the United Nations on an international platform, participating in important issues, making ourselves available to provide solutions, and being proactive and involved in world matters, real matters that the world is dealing with. Yet the picture painted in the media is very different for the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, for the United States of KAILASA. Now, I want to share one thing. See, Article 10 of the Human Rights Act, freedom of expression. This is what it states, that everyone has the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart information and ideas without interference by public authority and regardless of frontiers. Now, if one looks at right from the early satsangs of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism to present day, they are all about empowering humanity. And the basis has always been Hindu principles and Hindu truths as revealed in the scriptures. So the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has always expressed his vision for a conflict-free place of living on planet Earth. Yet, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's rights to express are impressed to be suppressed. And how is that justified? How is that justified? By setting a negative narrative and repeatedly broadcasting the same lies again and again, so people get convinced of the lies. By framing the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism in false allegations. So all the hard work done and all the credibility earned through contribution, through years of contribution, brought to ill repute overnight, to bring about doubt in people, to make people doubt the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and his vision and his intentions. The persecution started so many years ago and just does not stop. Still, why does it go on? Why? Everything that is shared is twisted. Any contribution made is twisted. It's put through a filter of negativity, which is always added. One can't help but wonder, why is that? There is a backlash for any contribution made by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. So what I'd like to do is, we have Her Excellency Ma Vijayapriya Nithyananda. Of course, you've heard from her and all the exciting contributions that we've been everything that we've been participating at the United Nations, sharing about the contributions, etc. Right? So we have before we go to Her Excellency, I would like to introduce Ma Nitya Nanditananda, who will be joining us. We have Ma Nitya Tattva Priyananda, and we also have Ma Nitya Prana Priyananda joining us as well. So we have all of us here to share our experiences. In total, we'll take you through this journey today. But we'll start with Ma Her Excellency, let me say it correctly. So, Kailasa's permanent ambassador to the United Nations, Her Excellency Ma Vijayapriya Nithyananda, especially as after all the contributions and all the work that has happened at the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland, there has been a backlash, and I'd like to hear from Her Excellency on her experiences this past couple of weeks, where there's been a momentum moving forward to make a real difference in the world, and the narrative that is set currently by the media.
Yes, Nityanandam, Ma Atmadaya, and all the panelists present here, and all the viewers watching us from globally. See, I would like to mention the United Nations serves as a platform for member states to promote their respective interests. And we have ambassadors, presidents, prime ministers, and foreign ministers use this platform to make official statements aimed at advancing their country's agendas. And at times, such statements may necessitate voicing disagreements with other parties. And such exchanges are actually a natural part of the international diplomacy. And with any diplomatic exchange, it is important that all the parties engage in discussions and express their views respectfully without fear of negative consequences. And this enables constructive dialogues to occur and fosters an environment where diverse perspectives can be heard and considered. So, as KAILASA's permanent ambassador to the United Nations, it is both my duty and my responsibility to express official statements that reflect the interest of my nation and its head of state, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam. And in carrying out this responsibility, I strive to address any instances of injustice or persecution faced by KAILASA and by our head of state. However, despite simply stating the facts and the truth about the ongoing ethnocide and genocide of Hindus, as well as the persecution of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and KAILASA, as you mentioned, Mahatma Daya, we have faced significant backlash just in the last few days. And it is very unfortunate that raising awareness about these critical issues has resulted in such negative reactions. So, in regards to KAILASA's participation in the day of the general discussion on the General Comment on Economic, Social, Cultural Rights and Sustainable Development, I would like to reference their website statement on this matter. So, the website states that the Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights is the body of 18 independent experts that monitors implementation of the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights by its state parties. And the covenant enshrines economic, social, and cultural rights, such as the rights to adequate food, adequate housing, education, health, social security, water, sanitation, and work. KAILASA, which is reviving the enlightened Hindu civilizational nation and the 10,000 indigenous tribes of Hinduism, recently made a statement highlighting the violations of the cultural rights that are being perpetrated against the indigenous Hindu tribes, as well as the persecution of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, who was exiled from his birth country due to his efforts to protect these tribes. And additionally, KAILASA emphasized the importance of these indigenous Hindu tribes' knowledge and solutions in achieving sustainable development and the success that KAILASA has achieved by implementing these solutions that are from the Hindu scriptures. For example, KAILASA is able to provide free food, shelter, clothing, education, health and healthcare to all its citizens and communities worldwide where KAILASA's NGOs and spiritual embassies are operating. So my statement is being misinterpreted and willfully manipulated and distorted by certain anti-Hindu sections of the media. My statement was the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was exiled from his birth country. And we are very clear that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was persecuted in his birthplace by certain anti-Hindu elements. So again, the United States of KAILASA holds India in very high regards and respects India as its Guru Peetam, which I would like to emphasize. And we again urge the Indian government to take actions against these anti-Hindu elements who continue to attack and incite violence against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and Kailasa. We request the Indian government again to take swift and decisive actions against the anti-Hindu elements who persistently incite violence against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and Kailasa.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the buzz that, because I have been there in Geneva, and the excitement that we have felt, truly felt, and felt like, yes, these are amazing principles that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has initiated us into. I myself didn't know much about my own culture, my own background as a Hindu. I was born into a Hindu family, but the depth with which I grasp the purpose for why I'm here, the purpose for why I'm living, right? So this is on an individual basis, bringing this science to the entire planet and having really sustainable solutions. There is I mean, it would feel like as if there is a crime that has been committed. And there is no such thing. The picture that is painted is that something seriously wrong has been done, which is not the case. And the fact that you have to come and justify your statement rather than, you having to come and justify why you said it or why we're doing what we are doing, but that too from being on a back foot. It feels like we're forced to be on a back foot and then justify why we said what we said. So this to me, it's like, well, what is the problem in going and expressing which you and me have the freedom of right to do? We have a freedom of right to participate. We went there respectfully, following all of the protocols. And when the opportunity to share happened, we shared. So what's the problem with that, right? So yes, thank you so much, Your Excellency, for sharing. I'd like to hear also from Ma Nithyananda, who has gone through a similar backlash actually herself, and I'd love to hear from her. Yes.
Thank you, Ma Nithyananda,
Yes, we're
for that
back. Let me
question.
complete with you, actually, Ma Nithyanandita. I have a habit of adding Ananda at the end of at the end of all the names, so I complete with you. And I complete with all the viewers that are watching for the technical glitch. We're back now and would love to hear from Ma Nithyanandita about your experience of the backlash that happens when there is a significant contribution. It's always twisted into a negative thing.
Yes, and thank you for asking that question, Ma, because I have experienced this not today, not yesterday, but when I was just 16 years old. And I had no idea of my introduction to social media, or I should say, my introduction to the society, how society responds to standing up for Hinduism was perhaps strange. Because we have seen time and again how our Hindu deities, Hindu gods, goddesses, are ridiculed in the eyes of public. Under the pretext of freedom of speech, opinion, and expression, we have seen how our Hindu deities, gods, goddesses are ridiculed, shamed, persecuted, abused in public, called out by people. All of these under the guise of freedom of speech. We can see how, in the name of freedom of expression, freedom of speech, creativity, our Hindu gods are blatantly abused, disrespected, portrayed as evil, satanic, and trolled in the public, even in the countries that has so-called majority of Hindus. In the name of creativity, anybody can depict Hindu gods in any derogatory way, make remarks about them. Here we can see the pictures of how Hindu deities are abused or ridiculed, and how each of them are portrayed in an extremely derogatory manner. Films, commercials, so many different content that is generated in the mass media, in the mainstream media, which depicts Hindu gods, Hindu deities, and Hindu gurus as people who are frauds, cheats. It depicts gods as sex symbols. It depicts Hindu gods as cowards and Hindu practices as superstitious, satanic, and ridicules them. And anybody who practices Hindu dharma is portrayed as villain, is portrayed as his character is always presented as if he's superstitious, he's violent. And any Hindu guru who is speaking about Hinduism, anybody who stands up for Hinduism is subject to shame, is subject to persecution, is subject to harassment. Actually, I still remember when I was 16 years old, a celebrity had made derogatory remarks about Andal, a revered goddess in Hinduism. I spoke out against it, but I faced a brutal backlash, trolls, memes, and so many other forms of abuse. In fact, that was my introduction to what happens when you stand up for Hinduism by the society. And I was like shocked. I actually, even now, I never expected such a response would come when a celebrity who holds a certain responsibility for the platform that he or she is given, the status of being a celebrity, being an opinion maker or an influencer, also comes with tremendous responsibility that they carry. It goes unsaid that anything that they say does not just represent their individual opinion, but in fact, it affects a whole common mass of the society. So when I spoke out against it, I had faced severe trolls, memes, so many other forms of abuse. However, I firmly believed, and I still believe that as a Hindu, I have the rights to defend my dharma. And my upbringing under the guidance of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has always given me the courage to do so. I was raised to have the courage and conviction to defend my dharma no matter at what the cost is. But what troubled me the most was the deafening silence of all the Hindus who watch these type of content, who see that the mainstream media flushes out all these type of trolls and memes on Hindu deities, sexualizing them and abusing them, ridiculing them in the eyes of public. And when I spoke up against this, I was subject to trolls. I could see my images, photographs being morphed, and memes being spread about me all on the media. And that is when I realized, oh my God, this is unfortunately the sad state of us today. I was just a 16-year-old girl who expressed my thoughts, my opinions, or views on on how Hindu goddess Andal was abused in the public by so-called celebrities. And what I faced left me with a shock. And what troubled me even more was the deafening silence of every Hindu who see that such celebrities make such comments, who are responsible for their statements as they're given a certain platform which comes with responsibility, but yet not a single Hindu voiced out. And we are never able to get answers for this. It just becomes a temporary trend on Twitter, and that is it. That's all it is. There are so many movies, Bollywood movies, highest grossing Bollywood films, which openly abuse our Hindu deities, our religious sentiments, our beliefs, our rituals, our sacred sentiments, everything. And yet, nobody can speak up against it. Anybody who speaks against it is subject to troll, is portrayed as if he or she is a fool, or that person is portrayed as if he or she is extremely regressive in their thinking. So all of these extremely shock me. It still does shock me, because seeing how each of our Hindu gods and goddesses are being ridiculed and abused, and this is what made me decide that I need to speak. But when I saw that all these media channels were trolling me, it was extremely I should say it was extremely painful initially, because I did not expect. Anywhere I would go, I used to have people who used to come and photograph, and they used to say, oh, you are the girl who spoke like this. And my social media pages, my inboxes were all filled with such extremely derogatory remarks. You can all see the types of memes that people made and people were spreading. And I could see my images morphed all on social media with different types of troll content. And if I just Googled my name on in Google, I used to see so much of troll content. I used to see so much of memes. And actually that initially had impacted me a lot. The way how the backlash was, how the society, how so many people responded, and the way they described it did not just end to my statement. People did not just end to responding to my statement, but instead they started even attacking my character. They started questioning. They started you can see here these type of memes, how they started portraying not just me, but even all my sister sannyasis who were at the campus. They started portraying all of us in a very, very derogatory manner. And that was something difficult to digest, because we live and like the lifestyle that Swamiji gives us is extremely sacred and is such a safe and a beautiful environment for all of us as women, how we are raised and brought up. But to see it being portrayed in a completely derogatory manner was very painful, in fact.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, you were only 16 years old at the time. I had a incident for myself when I was 16 years old in college, and it was on a much smaller basis where a false narrative was set about me by another couple of students, and that had a lasting impact on me. That was horrendous to see myself getting excluded from the group and put through this kind of like First of all, it was a false narrative. It was a misunderstanding that one person had, and they decided to generate that in and spread those lies among a whole bunch of other people. Now, I can only just, I can only just about, at that age, I'm able to get a little glimpse of, but to have such a vast number of people, and that to strangers that you don't know, talking like this about yourself. And why? Because you stood up. You stood up to say, listen, when you're saying something negative about our Hindu deities, this is not okay. Standing up, but then uh, for standing up, you get even stronger attack. There's an even stronger attack, so to silence you completely, right? This is exactly what has been going. There's a multitude in your sharing, Nithyanandita. I saw a multitude of levels of persecution. You can see the levels of persecution that has happened towards Hindus, and when it is happening with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, you can see currently, meaning what has been going on. It is very visible to see. If you just decode everything that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has gone through, you can map it back to, it is actually the whole persecution on Hinduism itself and Hindus itself, except all of them have been silenced, made to drop their own beliefs, their own culture, their own principles that is in their DNA.
Actually, Atmadaya, just as you brought this up, I would like to add a
Please.
point, because at that day, right, the day when she spoke, she made the video, and the video went viral overnight. And my I was not, like, it was just too shocking for me when I saw the backlash that we had. I was receiving a lot of calls from my relatives. A lot of my relatives were calling. My Purvashram parents were calling. And my Purvashram father, he in fact said, "Oh, how can you even speak like this? Look, now just because you spoke for Hinduism, now see so many people are abusing like this." Nobody was there to support her. And everybody, even to this day, remember, she was like literally shocked when the that it was she's sitting in the hall, in a meditation hall, and she was sitting alone, and she was like, "I'm just shocked of what is going on." Because continuously her phone was ringing, like I saw, like continuously, because people were not able to reach her, they were trying to reach me, because constantly death threats came from so many strangers. People found out our numbers, people were messaging us, and my inbox and Instagram, Facebook, everywhere it was flooded. And people were morphing her images. And to see, as a sister, and seeing her facing that, just because she voiced out the emotion of Hindus, seeing that our goddess is being slut shamed by one of a very influential person in the social media, and because she voiced out for it, she was not supported. Instead, she was harassed, like, and that too by our own. See, one is being harassed by strangers, but it was even more shocking when even our own parents, the Purvashram parents, even they were like, I remember they were calling me and firing me, firing her. How dare you speak out for Hinduism? Don't you know this is what will be faced? Who told you to go and speak? For that, let someone else speak. Why are you speaking? And I was like, really, it was so difficult to digest at that time when the society was behaving like this.
Actually, I'd like to just add to this, Mahatmadaya, because when you said, right, it just reminded me of one particular incident. As soon as, like, to the extent, see, I agree that people can have individual opinions and expressions on things. There's never, like, we can never command people all to follow a certain belief. Yes.
That's agreed. But to express an individual opinion, another person's character need not be attacked upon. You can express your thoughts, but you don't need to cross that line and start attacking another person's character. Just imagine being that is when I had even started coming on social media and interacting with the world, because I was just 16 at that time. And where I could see my messenger inboxes would be filled with my images, completely like morphed and memes created, and people used to send me all kind of abusive messages. So what I did, I started blocking, and I used to be like extremely afraid of opening any strangers messages, so I started blocking people. And interestingly, there was one group of people who even went to the extent of creating a Facebook page on my name and posted all sorts of abusive content about Swamiji using my name. Swamiji is my guru, and Swamiji is more than a father and mother to me. Imagine if someone uses your name, runs a Facebook page or a social media profile on your name and abuses your parents using that. How hurtful and painful it would be, right? And I had this, and I was struggling even to bring that down because I did not have a knowledge on how to do all of this. So personally, to me, it was extremely shocking because people did not stop with just expressing their opinions of what I said. That could be okay to me as long as it was just their individual opinions. But they went beyond that and they started attacking my character. They would say, like, oh, you're studying in Swamiji's ashram, so I know what kind of character you would be. And people started talking all of that. And to make things worse, even on adult sites, they had put my
Sure.
pictures. So that was the
And-
worst thing when I had found that out. This is the type of things that anyone who stands up is subject to, especially if you're a woman and you stand up. It makes it even more, you become even more vulnerable to all these things, because the common fabric that is weaved in the society of how women are trolled, subject to harassment in social media is to one extent. And secondly, when you are a Hindu monk, and when you are a disciple of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism who stands up as a loud voice for Hinduism, and thirdly, you're a woman, all these three added up to it. And people, they just attacked my character along with me, all my sister, uh, the monks who were studying along with me, right? All the sister sannyasis, every one of them, all of their images started being taken, and their memes were also created using their images. So the entire thing was extremely. Right now, I'm able to even speak like this because over the years, I have seen how these are, and I learned how to deal with it using the principles that Swamiji has taught. But at that point, only I know what kind of emotions that I went through. I literally shut my phone. I used to not even say I became so afraid of social media or afraid of meeting people.
And
So-
actually, that is when, right, if you remember, that's when Swamiji had, through Swamiji's secretary, had also told, like, saying that you should not give up on yourself, and that this is whatever society might do. This is, do not give up, do not fall into guilt. You standing up for Hinduism, just use this time to voice it more, be more brave, to be like the kind of support. Like, even when our own parents said, like, why would you go and let somebody else do it for Hinduism? Why you want to go and talk? Let someone else voice out. And they even fired you, if you remember. Like, for me, like, to see this whole thing happening, and I was there with you at that time. And when this situation happened, and how even after, like, our own parents were trying to give up on us, trying to like, distance us. They were firing us and saying, like, who want you to stand up for Hindus? And if you want, let someone else do it. Like, in spite of all of these things, it was Swamiji at that time who stood up and supported. It's something, just his compassion at that point, it was just too much, too touching. The whole media was abusing, persecuting the Supreme Pontiff of Hindus. They were trying to manipulate, misrepresent, and use that opportunity to attack
Swamiji. But Swamiji did not back off. And Swamiji never, even at that time, Swamiji didn't utter one word or anything like in any manner saying that, okay, why did you speak up for Hinduism? No. Instead, Swamiji said it is like Swamiji empowered her. That was something really, really moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm hearing the Ma Nithyananda, I can feel that moment you're like, you know what, I cannot even handle looking at another message, because it does start some sort of it does start triggering a few things naturally, of course, but because of the grace of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, it gets settled and moved to a space of power, empowered space very quickly. Now what I'm seeing is, of course, there's a multitude of layers of things going on, but many people think, likelihood is majority of the Hindus probably think that the persecution happened in the past. It's happening right now. It's happening right now. So set a negative narrative and then justify creating a hate culture, exactly as the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism explained when the Palgar sadhus were murdered so blatantly. Right? You set a particular narrative and then create the hate culture, a mob culture. And it's a mob which decides to have like this mob culture of backlashing through the media. It's just a different way of doing it, but it is still. So then the majority of the people that have not necessarily experienced the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and in his initiations can justify and say, well, this is how it was and this is what he said and did, and all the false accusations that are made, that's perfectly fine. Then it's justified when this whole thing collapses. That is their attempts, creating this hate culture. That is what happens with this backlash, is this wave of justified. And then because there are so many media houses and media platforms, the feeling is, okay, right now it will not feel like an attack. If you're not immediately involved, it will not feel like an attack. And especially if you're a sleeping Hindu, you'll definitely not feel like an attack. You'll feel like, oh well, it has got nothing to do with me, but I'm still a Hindu. This kind of stuff, right? So I really appreciate Ma Tattvapriya, you sharing the layers, and of course you were there experiencing this is violence. This is violence, what has happened to a 16-year-old because she decided to stand up and express, which is, you have the right and freedom to express your opinions, right? For that. Now, if everybody was to go through this, is that going to be okay? Because everybody expresses their opinions all across the world on many different platforms. So why should a particular group be targeted? This is we're going to go into a bit more, but I'd like to hear also from Pranapriya, who has experienced a similar backlash herself when you were in Gujarat. Please, could you share a bit about that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mahatmaya. And like you were sharing, it is not an accidental opinion or the freedom of expression that the media or some sections of media being passing these judgments on women. It is actually a strategic attack on Hindus and especially Hindu women, I would say. So there are several theories about how this genocide works. To be precise, in 1996, the founding president of Genocide Watch, he has actually presented about 8 steps. What are the typical 8 steps of genocide? And the first step is actually isolation and singling out. So that's the first step that they do. And the next one is the programmed confusion, right? For now, we can see very clearly how they are twisting our Excellency Permanent Ambassador of USK. Her statements are being twisted to create a confusion amongst the public, whether it is anti-Hindu or whether it is against anti-Hindu elements or anti-India. So create a confusion amongst the people and single out the person. And so you can start exploiting the weakness of the public, right? So even though the majority of the Hindus feel it is extremely moment of pride where their plight, their religious rights that is being exploited for centuries is being represented in the United Nations for the very first time, even though the Hindus, majority of the Hindus feel proud about what has happened, they exploit the weakness of the public because you keep saying these lies and you keep creating this programmed confusion over and over again for a million times. So instead of just voicing out, okay, I do support them, they just keep quiet. So this is how you start um, suppressing the voice of the Hindus and you start programming their minds, right? So you start having a justification propaganda. You start assassination attempts, like you mentioned about the Palgar sadhus, just how they started framing sadhus or the gurus as somebody who's a sex offender or a thief or an anti-social element. So you keep you keep propagating these lies after lies after lies to justify your assassination attempt or your crimes against certain sections of the indigenous community. And that is exactly what the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and Kailasa has faced more than a decade. And it is nothing new. In fact, if you ask me, I was leading the mission of Yogini Sarvanyapita, which is a completely women's only university, and it also had a traditional school, which is Gurukul. Over 9 months in Gujarat, with the grace and blessings of Swamiji, several extraordinary possibilities for human beings. For example, the ability of blind children to be able to see and read through the third eye awakening, the ability for the deaf and mute children who can start talking and chanting Mahavakya just by the initiation and awakening of their third eye. And lot of healing and meditation practices that was offered to people who are affected by HIV, people who are affected by earthquakes, rural women. They were empowered so many techniques and methodologies from Sanatana Hindu Dharma, how to hold themselves as pride women. And not to forget about all the various healing services that Swamiji has empowered all of us to offer to the community over the 9 months. It was extraordinary. At least more than 100,000 people would have got benefited by various programs that was conducted over that short period of 9 months, which was completely run by women. Right from driving a car to approaching any person to offer healing, everything was done out and out by women. Even in fact, we raised donations, or people who supported the whole mission was also women. So in that way, we wanted to establish a women's only campus, completely under the guidance and the vision that Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has given for the Yogini Sarvanyapita. So when this institution was attacked, right, I also faced very similar situations where you start giving a false narrative and then you keep saying that false narrative over and over again in a way that the whole mass starts to believe, or they feel that, okay, let me shut up, let me not voice out what exactly happened. So this is the regular strategy that these anti-Hindu elements take it up. And this is the way how the great work, right? For example, the science of power manifestation, which is nothing but empowering human beings with extraordinary capabilities, extraordinary possibilities that they have within. When Swamiji is bringing those sciences out and empowering the yoginis, the female sannyasis, female monks, in a way that their contributions are actually heard by the society. When these contributions are actually coming out, and the whole society is turning their opinion about Hindus and what these ancient sciences can do, that is exactly the time these strategic attacks starts to happen. That's what my experience was. When about literally 9+ schools started signing up pacts saying that, okay, third eye education is mandatory for all our children, then you can imagine number of lives who were completely touched by the science of third eye awakening which Swamiji has given. So when this kind of expansion was about to happen, that is exactly when the institution was attacked, and it was brought down to grounds, literally. And spreading lies after lies, running campaigns after campaigns, misleading the whole public, making them feel scared and threatened to even think about, okay, should I even associate myself as somebody who's benefited by these programs? Better I keep quiet because I have a family, right? So this is how they strategically isolate the institution who is reviving the Hinduism, who is reviving the Sanatana Hindu Dharma. That's what I would like to mention, that it is not a casual exchange of views, but rather it is orchestrated. It is definitely strategically attacking the Hindu gurus, Hindu institutions, or anybody who stands for Hinduism for that matter.
No, absolutely. As you were sharing, Ma Pranapriya, the visual I was getting is that every time there's a flowering, there's a flowering happening, it's crushed, it's a very specific way, especially we see if you take it from when the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism had tens of thousands of attendees for various programs, and then the very strategic attack happens, and of course it happened all along the way, but then specifically so in a big way to influence a larger group of people against, and then again that hate culture created. So the justification of all the mob attacks is there. We're seeing it, right? So we've seen it with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism right from that point, and before that as well. And then when we see it every time, there is a flowering of the science, the revival of the science, exactly as the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's vision is unfolding. Then these attacks happen again and again and again. So of course, it's in some ways it's not a surprise that there we are celebrating, contributing at the United Nations in Geneva, and then this backlash happens again. So we're seeing it again and again.
Yeah. And it is historic in nature. Like, it's not just, it has started just in the case of Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism or Kailasa. It has always been historic when it comes to women, especially. Like how they labeled Devadasis as sex workers, which is completely a false narrative. They are temple dancers. They treat Paramashiva as their only, only soul who they can relate to. And they've been shamed as sex workers. And the whole yogini tradition itself, right? So they were amazing power manifestors in 7th century. Literally, villages after villages, just by the science of power manifestation, they used to heal the entire village. So in 13th century, the persecution started, and they were also similarly called as sex workers, and they were completely isolated from the society. In fact, the whole clan of yoginis were burned to death. So that is the level of persecution that they have experienced. So I mean, this is a historic in nature, how they culturally attack Hindus, especially the indigenous traditions. And whoever is authentically standing up for these indigenous traditions, they are strategically attacked. And that is exactly what is happening to Kailasa and Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism.
Absolutely. Actually, when you were sharing it, I was thinking that's what they did to Ma Nithyanandita.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what they did. It is going on historically, and it is still happening. This is very much an alive example of the fact that it is very much happening right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they use that opportunity to target and attack and like silence us as much as possible. Like literally, like as you mentioned, Atmadeva, like they just thrash us in all possible fronts. Character assassinate us, slut shame us in the public.
Exactly that shaming, demoralizing, and then making the whole thing have a large group of people turn against. So the justification continues, right? So we have Ma Vijayapriya also here. I'd like to hear from you, Ma, about the experience, this shaming and demoralizing that is currently in process, to destabilize you from that space of empowered, the empowered space that you're in, the attempts to destabilize by shaming and demoralizing.
Yes, absolutely, Mahatmadaya. It's actually very disheartening to see how the media have chosen to shame and criticize Hindu women and I say Hindu women because as the ambassador of KAILASA, which is the only Hindu nation, I represent KAILASA, which is the only country for Hindus. So it's very disheartening to see how the media has chosen to shame and criticize Hindu women for simply living in confidence and accordance with the indigenous culture and traditions. And rather than being celebrated for expressing my Hindu identity through the traditional symbols such as the tikka, the rudrakshamala, the gold jewelry, and orange robe, being a Hindu nun, I am being unfairly maligned. And additionally, as you might have seen the misrepresentation of my chitas, the dreadlocks, which is sacred to Hindu nuns and monks. The misrepresentation of the chitas as turbans, and also comments on them, various comments on them. It's statements on my makeup. Further examples on, how Hindu women are being unjustly targeted by anti-Hindu elements. I mean, we see Muslim, women wearing the hijab, and they are not being shamed by the media. So how does the media deem it acceptable to shame and demoralize, Hindu women who choose to wear their traditional attire? And as the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism said, the women of KAILASA are the voices for the sufferings of all the Hindu women who are shamed, ridiculed, trolled for wearing Hindu symbols. And as a Hindu woman, as a Hindu nun, and the permanent ambassador of KAILASA to the United Nations, empowered by my Guru, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam, to live and celebrate my religion, culture, tradition unapologetically, I will continue to perform my duty and responsibility without any hesitation in representing Hindus on behalf of the United States of KAILASA and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism.
Yes, well said. I have this habit of going to Pinterest and looking at some old photos, and then I've seen I've seen amazing black and white photos, and this is just recent photos. Recent, when I say recent, it'll be probably 100 or maybe 150 years or maybe 200, 300 years old. Oh, I don't know when the camera started. Whatever the time the photos photos started. I have seen pictures of women, Hindu women, in amazing jewelry, really beautifully dressed. Now, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, there's no secret, is reviving the whole ecosystem, the entire civilization. So it's celebrating all of it. So yes, proudly wearing jewelry. And I have to say, personally, when I'm groomed, well groomed, like, there are times when I'll be sitting and doing your regular work. Maybe it's a Sunday morning or afternoon, or I might be sitting there in my hoodie and some leggings or something. It's different feel to when I was there at the United Nations, dressed in a sari with all of my jewelry. I felt different. I felt more feminine. I felt good. When we dress well, anywhere we go, dressing well, it's part of that, us feeling elevated, feeling really good about ourselves. So why not? The whole point here is feeling empowered. So dressing well is part of that. Grooming ourselves is part of that. Correct. It's very you will see when we are sitting at home, when it's not required for us to necessarily be fully dressed in all of the jewelry, etc. There is a difference where I'm feeling different about myself, and dressing well is part of our culture. It's part of being Hindu. All women, my mom example, having gold jewelry, a certain amount of gold jewelry is required in the family. So jewelry is a big part. Having a particular type of saris and dress wear is a big part. So yes, why not? We are celebrating all of it. So proudly wearing all of it. Yes, please go ahead, Ma Nithyananda.
Actually, I'd like to add a point here, Ma, because what you brought up was is very important point to address, because in today's society, especially when everyone is forced to fit into a template of what is called a perfect woman or a perfect man. Like, when you come of your teenage, you're expected to have a certain way. And perhaps what is even more shocking is in today's society, including by what age you need to have boyfriends or girlfriends, is like a peer pressure added on a child, right? I was so shocked when I met children who are 15 and 16 when I was 16 years old. And I had learned the science from Swamiji of what, how to be free of depression, how to live, courageously. And Swamiji taught me so much about Hinduism and a lot about living a life and establishing ourselves powerfully, our inner space powerfully. I saw also children who were talking about breakups, who were talking about alcohol addiction. They were just 16, and that is the age to talk about, and that is accepted by the society. My friends, my school friends who I were friends with before I joined Gurukul, when I met them after I joined Gurukul, after I became a sannyasi, when I met them, I was so shocked to see my friends who were like playing with me, who were literally growing up with me. One of them was in the rehab center trying to get free of his alcohol addiction. And what is the age? Is that the age to get addicted to something? But all of that is so common. I was surprised to see that that is not considered as something wrong. That is like, it's okay. My friends were so casually talking about partying without parents knowing, and going for night parties, and going for alcohol, and that's so cool for them. That was okay for them to try. It was okay for them to have boyfriends and getting into relationships is not wrong. But without even having the clarity of who we are, having our inner space strong, when we experiment with relationships and it does not end up into what we see as how movies portray as romance, it unfortunately affects our inner space, right? So when I saw my friends go through this, I was shocked. But what the media speaks about is only, oh, this girl took sannyas. Oh, in Swamiji's ashram, there are so many female sannyasis. What is so wrong? Just because you're a woman and you take sannyas, what is wrong about it? And I was so shocked. I was so shocked to see media articles talking about, the women in Kailasa wear eyeliners. Oh, they are dressed so neatly. They wear saris. They are forced to wear saris. That's so disheartening to see what the media unfortunately focuses on. It focuses on the dress we wear, what color lipsticks we wear, or what kind of how tall we are wearing sari, this and that. That is the articles that media writes about, instead of bringing the attention on what needs to be solved. Even now, actually, if you see the common mindset of the society, if you just go on Google, right, if you see what kind of articles are daily published, you will see, oh, this actress wore this dress for her airport, this is her gym look, this is what she is doing, this is her boyfriend. It is extremely disheartening because this is what the youth are consuming on their day-to-day basis. But what apparently, like, what ironically the society finds funny is, if I talk about the science of living a depression free life, or if I talk about how the Hindu temples were advanced, I have comments under my tweets, under my Facebook post saying, "Is this the age to talk about all of this?" Isn't it so? Isn't it? I have no words to even describe this, but I have I feel so sad for the society, so sad for the people in today's world who have a very wrong notions of what is right and what is wrong.
Actually, this, even if it is just stopping with their opinions and the kind of ideologies they carry and not harming the others, I think it's okay. But it does not end over there. Like when the discussion is happening, especially about the clothing that we wear and the kind of the shaming that is done on us, I am reminded of a very traumatizing experience that I faced just because I chose to wear my Hindu traditional clothing, which is a part of our culture as the indigenous tradition that we follow. Wearing a sari is a pride for us, and that's our culture. It's a very integral part of us. And this incident happened when I was 14 years old. In 2013, the so called
child welfare officials. The incident literally, it just devastated me in kind of how people, the society can use their violent cognitions to destroy your individual identity and even your childhood forever. It was, I think this incident happened in 2013, where this child welfare officials were interrogating us under the garb saying that, oh, all these children do not have parents. And immediately we had to fly our parents, the whole, all the children's parents who were in India as well as abroad, immediately there, and they asked us to come for an interview. And all of us gathered at the building and we all went for the interview. And at that time, in front of my parents and my family, and I'm sitting over there, one of the officials, a man, asked me extremely inappropriate questions. First, slut shamed me and asking me why I don't want to expose my thighs and why I don't want to wear short skirts and why am I, even though honestly, whenever I remember that, I'm just shocked. Like, how can somebody put you through, who are officials, and they had the audacity to put you through such a traumatizing experience? Like, I still remember this child welfare official, so-called child welfare committee official, asked me to wear inappropriate clothes, which I consider as inappropriate, and it is not part of my tradition, and which I do not want to wear. They were pressurizing me to wear those kind of clothing, and they asked me, why don't you have a relationship? And I'm like, I am a Hindu and I am a sannyasi and I want to live this lifestyle. And this is what my guru, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, has taught me to live. I am living a life of celibacy and I want to live my tradition. But they started using extremely vulgar words, vulgar terms. And all these things are happening in an official place. They're having an interview with us and they asked me such intrusive questions, and it was just too much to bear. At that time I was 14 years old, and that was the first time I had joined the Gurukul, become part of this indigenous traditional school. And it just happened in a matter of few months after me joining. So the first time I faced such a question, I was like really shocked. And they were abusing me wearing sari. They were mocking my jewelry, the rudraksha that I was wearing. They were mocking me wearing basma. They were mocking me wearing the sari. And I'm like trying to explain to them that this is a part of my culture. And this is what I'm comfortable with. This is what I would like to wear. This is my traditional indigenous dress. It is a part of my cultural identity. And it was, I actually felt so violated on that day. I never expected that somebody who is supposed to be a child welfare official, who's supposed to ensure the welfare of children, would ever come and ask us things in such an intrusive manner, humiliate us, and demoralize us. Literally trying to shatter my identity as a Hindu. That is why today, how many of us as a Hindu are able to proudly wear a bindi or put bhasma on our forehead or put rudraksha and go proudly? The cultural identity that we carry is being not just snatched away from us, it is literally, they're using it to like break us, shatter us inside. That day, if it was not for the teachings of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, I don't think I would have the strength that I have today. Because it is not just the questions, it's kind of the vulgar looks that they give. And this is all happening under the garb of an official interview that they're having. I asked them, why are you asking me such questions? They humiliated us by saying, oh, because you're studying in Swamiji's ashram. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? They try to marginalize us. They literally, it was like, actually, whenever I remember that incident, even now, whenever I remember that incident, it just puts me through a lot of, it's not easy. It's really not easy to remember that and go through that experience. See, this is just one of the many persecutions that I have personally faced just because we decided to be a Hindu sannyasi, just because I decided to be a part of this indigenous tradition. They asked me questions like, the man was asking me, that official was asking me, oh, don't you watch movies? Don't you see how the celebrities wear clothes? Don't you want to be like them? Why do you want to go and follow all these things? And actually, some of the words he used, I'm not able to use it now because it literally chokes me. The kind of vulgar questions that he put us through. And after all of these, he made us wait for, like all the parents along with their children, all of us were asked to go to a separate room by the child welfare committee, and all of us go to that room, and it was extremely hot over there. We were made to wait for hours. They said that we are going to have an interview. And all of a sudden, so we were all tired, and the room was in such a way where it was extremely hot. So everybody, once we gathered there and we were waiting for hours together, we were not let to go outside. Kids started sitting, feeling very tired, feeling very sleepy, and they're sitting over there. All of a sudden, media just barges in, and all of our videos were taken. And this was streamed live on the news channels. So it was like all a planned attack that happened. And the next day, that same footage was used, claiming that the kids are not given food. The kids are extremely poor. They cannot survive over here. They need to be taken out of this indigenous tradition. It was manipulated. And it was, I don't know, I'm actually, like, right now, as I'm sharing, I feel extremely pained, because this is what they're doing to such an ancient traditional educational system, the Gurukul system that Swamiji is reviving. And the kind of things that they put us through, it's been almost a decade now, because this happened 10 years before, 2013 July, I think.
Exactly 10, well, just
2013
under
this
10
happened.
years ago.
Now we're in 2023.
Yes. Ma Tattvapriya, thank you so much for sharing. And exactly this shaming, demoralizing, and the attempt to destabilize, and it's layers and layers. I mean, I shared the other day that wearing, example, when I first came to the UK, wearing my bindi, it was I was teased for it. I was called names for wearing a bindi. I would say I was stereotyped against. Yet that's all okay. And why? Because there wasn't there even at that time, of course, I stopped wearing my bindi. I stopped slowly. I started acclimatizing myself to a different way of clothing myself. So I stopped wearing my traditional clothes, and I would wear my traditional clothes like sari, or any other outfits only for weddings. I started even buying less and less, having less and less. It's thanks to my mom. Actually, she has a habit of having a proper wardrobe, and she dresses traditionally, so she kept a wardrobe which I use now. Thankfully she kept it, so I use it now. And it's only because of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism that I've started to really own very proudly and in an empowered way this lifestyle, even wearing my kumkum and bindi, wearing kumkum bhasma and the rudraksha, everything, the right jewelry for myself, I wear just because of the empowerment that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has done. But the shaming, what you've just shared, Ma Tattvapriya, it's you're 14 years old, putting you through that experience where I could see in your body language, you're still experiencing when you're obviously recalling that what they attempted and what they wanted to, if they still do, even with this backlash that is happening right now, it is all about shaming and demoralizing what for having a lifestyle that we are choosing. And why should we have to go through that? But that is what is happening right now, right? So one more, I'd like to hear from Pranapriya as well of the same, because you've gone through this, you've gone through a much more of a persecution than you had started to share in Gujarat. There are many more points, and we would love to hear from you what your experience has been.
Yeah. Very similar to what the other panelists been sharing. Just would like to highlight that one of the British journal like to have actually systematically proved that objectification of women is one of the key strategies that is being used to suppress the indigenous traditions. So, like what Ma Vijaypriya has shared before, we do not talk about hijab, we do not talk about Christian nuns wearing white dress, but we talk extensively about Hindus using Hindu symbols as something unfashionable or superstitious for that matter. And this is a strategy that is being used to literally suppress and subsidize the indigenous traditions for that matter. And other thing that I wanted to share is similar type of shaming is what happened in the persecution that the Yogini Samangapitam also faced, where the children were interrogated, and in the name of interrogation, all kinds of demeaning questions related to jatas, related to rudrakshas, related to if you learn dance, then do you dance in the middle of the night to men? So to that level of attacks, and it is literally violating the minor rights for that matter, right? So we talk extensively about protecting minor rights, protecting children rights, but when it comes to Hindu children who want to follow the Hindu education, Hindu traditional education, we don't care about them. We publicize their pictures, we abuse them in public, we shame them, we talk about all of their lifestyle practices, the so-called scientifically populated lifestyle practices as per Vedas and Agamas. All of these practices are shamed, literally, for that matter. And even for me, personal thing, if I have to share, when I was illegally imprisoned, when I went to the judicial custody, first thing all the prisoners they asked me was, "Oh, you do dance nude in YouTube videos, right?" I was absolutely shocked and taken aback. From where is this coming? And later I got to know that literally it was a 1 month full of false and hatred that was spread in the garb of the whole false case. And what has happened is all these lies were spread in native languages, so which I do not even understand or don't know. And only after I came to hear all kinds of stories they have written, pages and pages, narratives and narratives, one whole cover page. I used to think, what why will you spend one whole cover page talking about lies and lies just to scare people to even associate with us? So that is the whole strategy. Women objectification is one of the powerful weapons that the anti-Hindu elements, anti-Hindu mediums have been using since age, and it is still continuing. That's the sad state of affairs. Even when Vijaypriya is representing the voice of Hindus who've been persecuted for 5,000 years, when that has been represented in such an international forum, all you have to say is about the Hindu symbols that she's wearing. I mean, how is it okay to objectify a woman like this? And the entire society keeps quiet. That is because that's how they brainwash and suppress you, because they create this confusion in a way that you just feel it is all right for women to get abused.
Yes. Yes, Pranapriya, so many points you've shared, and you've experientially gone through this, where, exactly what Nithyananda was sharing also, that, her, I mean, in what society are we living in, where you take a 16-year-old's photo and videos and you put them on a adult site? This is such violence. This is such violence, and I mean, it's uncalled for, and the same, it's like you said, Pranapriya, that it's made to be okay, right? It's people are desensitized to the issue. This is a massive issue, and there is like a dead space in people where they do not see this as a problem. Where these people think it's okay to do these things, and the persecution continues, right?
Absolutely. That is the impact of this double genocide, right? Like, we don't even know that we are being persecuted. In open, you talk about minor children. In open, you objectify women. All of these things have become very normal when it comes to Hindus, not for other religion or other minority traditions. So that is the plight of Hindus today. Sad state.
Yeah, because they wouldn't stand for it.
True.
They wouldn't stand for it.
And if you stand, you'll be isolated and you'll be called as anti-national.
But they won't allow for that also. You see, I'm talking about, not the Hindus don't. The Hindus are very much quiet, and because of the attacks for such a long time, that many decades and decades and decades of persecution, that we become accustomed to being quiet, to be, even when we see something happening which is seriously wrong, we would not want the same to happen to our family, to our sisters, to our mothers, to our family members, the women in our family. So why are we okay then when it is happening to the Hindu women in general, right? That's because of I feel that they are desensitized to the main issue here at hand, and because people have become accustomed to being persecuted, and that's the very problem that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is addressing by taking the issue to an international platform where everybody can join in. You can all join in, everybody. It's not exclusive only to the disciples of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. It is open to every single person who is currently watching live, who is going to be watching it tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, or in the month's time. You can all join in. It is all open to you. You can sign up at the link, which is sksjp.org/contribute, and gov.google, which is with a K, KOOGLE/diplomatic-corps/ you can all join in. Yes, please do, because everybody is welcome. Everybody is welcome to see the cause for what it is, to really know, rather than following blindly to a narrative set, a wrong narrative set, a negative narrative set for their own agenda by the media at large. Instead of following that, we can use our own intelligence and learn what the mission is, what the vision is, what the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is doing, not even wanting to do, is doing regardless of the persecution. And this is the beauty of being a part of United States of Kailasa, is that there is no question of sitting and lying down and being in powerlessness. There is no question of that. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism leads by example. Despite it's like, okay, yeah, persecution, I have something here that needs to be done. This is the purpose for which I am born, and I am finishing it. This is the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism stand, and it's going to happen. That's why it's a done deal. the United States of Kailasa, the vision of Kailasa, having a nation. I mean, how many of us, when I'll explain, when I, at the age of 16, experienced this gang of people against me, like feeling this bullying atmosphere, I gave up. I gave up. I went into a powerlessness mode, and it stands to show that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is really an incarnation of Paramashiva, because this does not phase him. The amount of persecution does not phase him. It is not. It is not about showing the. It's not about showing that there is a powerlessness. No, it is to show that there is a persecution. There has been a persecution, there is a persecution which needs to be addressed in a very mature manner, in a very mature conversation, in which we have been talking about opinions and expressing of opinions and the right to express our opinions. In the Vedic, in the Hindu civilization, there is Vakyartha Sadas, where mature discussion is had about topics, and it comes to a solution, where the whole discussion happens properly. It's not a case of, okay, my opinion is better than your opinion, etc., etc. So, and there's a proper Vakyartha Sadas that happens. So everybody that has been watching, if you'd like to have mature conversation with yourself, life, and others, and really stand for the cosmic principles of Hinduism, as the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is reviving properly, authentically, then sign up. Be counted, have your opinion heard, and let's align to the proper cosmic principles. So sign up to sksjp.org/contribute. And we will be trained, we will all be trained together, to be standing in an empowered way. So why shrink when you can flower? Now we go to I have one last actually point that I would like each of you to share. So I see we've gone through all of this. Now it's very clear, and we can prove it again and again, that there is a persecution happening. It's not even happened yesterday, the day before. It is still happening today. Now, despite of all of this, we've decided to be with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. There's got to be something, surely, right? We're all intelligent, very intelligent women, and we are still here. So what is it? I'd like to hear from Ma Vijayapriya. What is it for you? I'm going to share what is it for me at the end. But before that, I'd like to hear from Ma Vijayapriya. What made you decide for the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism?
Yes. So, if it were not for the empowering guidance and the unconditional love of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam, I would never have actually had the confidence to proudly represent my authentic
I think there's a technical glitch there. I'm a bit too excited to hear from Ma Vijayapriya. We can come back to Ma Vijayapriya in a moment. We have actually Ma Nithyanandita. Would you like to share, whilst we wait for Her Excellency Ma Vijayapriya Nithyananda to come back? Would love to hear from you. What is it that made you decide for the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and the United States of Kailasa?
Yes, actually, I'm so happy that I got an opportunity to share about that, because this is something that I always wanted to tell people. While what the world knows is only that, I made a video, and just for the example of that Andal issue that I was talking about. So world knows that I made a video, and then there were a lot of media responses on that. And yes, there's one part of it. But behind the scenes, what happened is something that I have never gotten an opportunity to share. And this is the first time I'm getting an opportunity to share about that. Right after this incident happened, and right after I saw the amount of backlash and the kind of responses that were coming online, I was completely shaken. Because in Gurukul we are brought up with a very innocent lifestyle, right? We have no idea, no exposure to any such things that happens in the regular world. And when I faced this, I completely shut down. I still remember I wrote to the secretary of Swamiji. I wrote to her. I wrote to this admin team. I wrote saying that I feel very bad. I feel very guilty that I made such a video because of which Swamiji is having to face so much of uh, abuse, and it went to such an extent that people even filed complaint on Swamiji for something that he was not even, he did not ask me to do a video. I just felt like it and I went and did, but I was too I think I was too naive. I didn't know the repercussions that it would have, because when I make, it's also representing Swamiji, but I did not have that knowledge back then. So once I realized what it had done, and once I saw that the whole thing was turned on Swamiji, I felt extremely bad. And I saw the response of my relatives, and I also saw that many of the devotees were hurt because they felt with the video that I made, Swamiji was facing the abuse. So facing all of this was not very easy for me, especially seeing the people who love Swamiji, the devotees being hurt. And I didn't, because my intention was not that, and it was too difficult for me to digest. I never realized, or I never expected that there would be a false case on Swamiji, or the whole thing would be turned against Swamiji. That was never something that I realized. And the moment I realized, I went and asked this. I said, I literally cried. I said, no, I want to say publicly that, Swamiji never asked me to do this, and there's nothing to do with Swamiji in this. It was my own decision, and I take responsibility for this, and I want to apologize to everyone. And this is what I had written. And what Swamiji had responded through Swamiji's secretary was something that will just move everyone. Swamiji told that, if in this age, if that young child is put to a situation to go back and to apologize, the confidence in her will be shaken. Right now, the decision that she is making is out of fear. Just let her know that any case that comes, any backlash that comes, I will take it. But let her confidence not be shaken. In this young age, she should learn to build her confidence. So whatever happened, let her stand up, let her learn to face the whole situation, digest, and build herself even more powerfully using it. Whatever cases are filed on me, it is okay, I will deal with it. Whatever abuse is coming on me, it is okay, I will take it. But let that child not get affected, let her confidence not get shaken. This was Swamiji's response. It's absolutely, I have no words to express my gratitude to Swamiji for that decision that Swamiji took. There was so much of backlash, not from one side. Even devotees were not okay with it. Of course, I will not be okay if someone's video is causing abuse on Swamiji, right? Devotees were hurt, and even my pre-monastic family were all against it. They were like, why are you talking? Why are you doing all of this? They were not okay with it. And on the social media, there was so much of abuse on Swamiji, using my name, using my pictures, and there were so many things. So every side, when I faced it, I immediately fell into fear, guilt. And the first thing Swamiji addressed was, he liberated that fear and guilt in me, and he empowered me to stand up back again, to not run away from crisis. And Swamiji empowered me to stand there, face the society, face everything that is happening around, and he taught me to respond with strength, with the tremendous inner strength. It is for these principles that I stand today, as every child who is brought up without fear or guilt, right? That is what Gurukul has given us. That is what Swamiji has given me. Swamiji taught me to not fall into fear. Swamiji taught me to not fall into guilt. Instead, he taught me how I can be even more responsible, even more powerful to deal with the crisis that life is throwing in front of me. At that time, Swamiji sacrificed. Swamiji did the tyaga of his own, like facing character assassination, facing false cases on him, and facing all the media manipulation, everything on him. And still Swamiji stood strong and empowered me to face the reality, empowered me to face the crisis. And I feel if every family had just one person like this, today women will not be shamed or will not be the victims of rape or child molestation. I feel just if every family has one person like this who can do the tyaga, who can stand it strong, I feel today the society will have women who are so powerful from within, who feel so empowered from within, who are not bound by guilt, who are not bound by shame, who are not a victim of fear, and they will have a freedom to become powerful, truly powerful from within. And we will have a society where there's no child molestation, there's no rape, where women are not abused, or where women are not subject to domestic violence. And this decision is what still inspires me to stand as Swamiji Sannyasi, because I know if I have made this decision to stand today, there'll be 100 other younger versions of me who will be battling with that same fear or guilt in different situations of their life. And I can be a medium who can tell them, hey, you know what, you don't need to fall into this. You can take responsibility for any mistakes that you do, and you can take responsibility, and you can have the powerful inner space to deal with any crisis that life throws at you. So that is what still inspires me to stand as Swamiji Sannyasi.
Wow. 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 So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Cosmic Mother, who's always taking care of her children. That's Swamiji, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, really showering the space of empowerment and truly liberating every being that decides to listen and live the principles, the cosmic principles. That's why they're implementable, because they're in practice. You've experienced them, and I'm sure Matattva Priya will also share in a moment how she's experienced and her why, the principles of the actual principles of why you said yes, despite of both of you had gone through quite a lot, recently also, where it was a massive, it was again a big thing in the media. A massive persecution was happening, and there you were. You had your pre-monastic family, right? That versus this couldn't have been easy, but still there is something deeply affecting you. So what was that? What were those principles that made you decide, Matattva Priya, for the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and to be part of the United States of Kailasa?
The first thing, Ma, is just Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and the empowerment, the compassion, that unconditional compassion that he showers, and the sacrifice that he does just for this one purpose, to serve humanity, to revive Hinduism. Despite of the persecutions that he faces, he stands up for it. And moreover, the persecution that we are facing, especially like as you mentioned about the recent ones that we have been facing from 2019 at the hands of our own pre-monastic father, it was more of my decision to stand up for the truth. I know what is the truth, and I decided to stand up for it. And always, whenever any Hindu voices the persecution, they brutally silence, and brutally silence to an extent which even demoralizes other Hindus who want to stand up for themselves. They're attacked, they're persecuted, they're killed, assassinated in front of everybody in the broad daylight, and yet they're not punished for it. They just escape. It's like things happen in broad daylight, and it only shatters every individual who decides to stand up for themselves. But it was only Swamiji who, despite of facing all the attacks, even when we were shattering inside with the kind of persecution when we were facing, it was only Swamiji who empowered us. like really empowered us. Swamiji says, real women empowerment is not us trying to fight for having equal things, trying to fit ourselves to what the men are having and trying to be equal to them, but it is about really awakening your divine feminine consciousness inside you, awakening the para shakti, the divine feminine consciousness inside you. And by awakening that shakti, what power you radiate, that is real women empowerment. And that is what Swamiji has been doing to each and every one of us as individuals. When the society shames us, at 14, when I was just 14 years old, when I was just a teenager, when people who are expected to take care of the welfare of children slut shamed me, it was only the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism who said, you cannot get into powerlessness. It is not the time for us to feel violated inside us. You can stand up for yourself. Society may rate you, hate you, judge you, abuse you, troll you, and beyond all of that, what remains is you. And Swamiji tells very beautifully, you are your intention to be. And with that, you can define who you are. You don't need to be cowed down with what people try to tell you from outside. You can live what you are, and from that, you can live and be who you are and show to people that their words are not going to shake you, but your work is going to speak for itself to them. It is only Swamiji who empowered us. The kind of sacrifices that Swamiji has done for me as an individual and for all of us as Kailasa and to the whole humanity itself is something that can never ever be like even cognized fully. Even now I feel every passing day, I realize different extent to which Swamiji has sacrificed. The persecution that when I faced it firsthand, when I faced the persecution, and especially at the hands of my own so-called family, when they persecuted me for my decision to be a part of this indigenous tradition, and by using extremely brutal means, extremely brutal, cruel means like character assassinating us. My own pre-monastic father slut-shamed me on the media, goes and calls us in extremely derogatory terms on the media, public media interviews. And in spite of all of that, the way Swamiji empowered us, saying, you live what you truly believe inside. Nothing else can violate you. You can never be violated. It was these things and the sacrifices Swamiji did. Because when I went through the experiences, I understood if I, in this kind of an ambience, this is what is the thing I'm facing. And I'm only experiencing 1% or not even 1% of what kind of persecution Swamiji has gone through, then what extent he has gone through. Yet never once you can ever see Swamiji even having a trace of anger in him. He stands up really powerfully and undeterred. He just focuses on contributing and reviving Kailasa just for humanity, just for the sake of humanity. His sacrifice and his tireless hard work, that is what even to this day inspires me every moment.
Yes, absolutely. Always leading by example. Always leading by example. It is not this, the beauty is being here with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. It is not dry knowledge, which is, somewhere, kept somewhere and brought to us. It is lived through the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's life. The scriptures are brought to life, how to live them, how they were lived at one point, right? So just we can see that say Supreme Pontiff of Hindu, just lovingly I call Swamiji, so it comes out of my mouth. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is really every component of it, every component of living. Ahimsa, example, ahimsa, non-violence. It is not just a term or a concept. It is through the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's life, one can see how that can be lived. So it's living in action. It's multi. If I start to now decode the whole thing and think about the layers, there's so many subtle layers of how Bhagwan is contributing to every one of our lives. So thank you so much, Ma Tattvapriya, for sharing. Would love to hear from Ma Pranapriya first, and then of course we'll go back to Ma Vijayapriya. So if you can please share, Ma Pranapriya, what are the principles for you that made you decide? What principles exactly? Then you said, okay, despite, because you also went through a massive amount of attack in Gujarat, right? And there you are coming out smiling. One very clear image captured of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, it is like etched in my brain. And I'm sure most of you will also recognize it.
Absolutely.
When I say it's Bhagwan standing, smiling, and there are, I don't know how many police officers around, and there is Bhagwan vibrant in the kavi with such a broad smile and so much love radiating and complete undisturbed space. So that element I can see in yourself, Ma Pranapriya, as you went through that persecution in Gujarat as well. What are the principles that, after all of that, what are the principles that made you continue to, you're still here?
I think, just to give a background of how, since my childhood, I always in the habit of questioning and wanting to know that, there used to be this rebel side of me wanting to know. That's mainly because of, I remember this one particular sentence that I was brainwashed with our regular, his Macaulay written history textbooks, where it talks about sati, and this particular sentence where it says that a woman should always be under the protection of a man. It is father before marriage, it is husband during marriage, and it is son after your husband's death. So I was like totally taken aback by all these lies that were spread about Manusmriti, and truly that made me to hate my Hindu identity. So I actually grew up like a rebel in my Hindu family, because I used to ask questions and nobody was able to give any answers for all of those, and probably say that you are talking too much, you should just keep quiet. This is not the way a girl should talk. So this was the ambience that I grew up. And when Swamiji happened in my life, I really felt like a bird, who was caged, started experiencing life, started experiencing what it means to fly. Literally, that's what I felt, because he supported me in every way. It's like, before even I think of, okay, should I try this? I like this. Before even I think of uttering that word, Swamiji would always say, you go ahead and, try that avenue. Try, venture it out. It's not that everything that I did was successful, but whether it is successful or not, he always empowered. He never, not once, he told, he once weighed out whether she will be good in this, whether she'll not be good in this. Never, not a single time. See, that is what is true women empowerment, right? I mean, whatever she wants to experience and express and try it out, everybody should support it. That is exactly what I experienced from Swamiji. It was never transactional, or it was never, whether she will do it well, whether should I allow it, and whether it is good for the organization or the nation. Nothing like that. It is more about, okay, what will fulfill my being. Literally a bird was caged for 20-25 years, and it starts to fly. It wants to fly everywhere. It doesn't know where, which is right or which is wrong. Swamiji always supported, literally supported. When I say that, no matter what it is, he always supported and empowered. It was never a decision based on abilities or what a person can do and can't do. It is truly about fulfilling that person. To fulfill that person, he goes to any extent. Any extent means any extent. Even this whole persecution, right? Like in 2018, I had this opportunity to start a university, women's only university in Gujarat. So I really felt, it's something worth trying and want to explore. So it was my decision. And Swamiji's, at that time we were going through lawfare. It's a new place. We don't know what's going to be the sentiment. There are so many unknowns. So many unknowns were there, but Swamiji simply supported it in every level, whether it is sending the resources, the people, empowering me, psychologically motivating me, physical, every level Swamiji completely supported. That 9 months venture, I would say it is the best time of my life, literally best time of my life, because I was able to explore everything, all the unknown dimensions of my life, because of Swamiji's constant support, right? Constant empowerment. I was able to experience and express myself in every level. But at the end of the day, he is incarnation. He knows what is going to be, coming through that whole thing. He knows that he is just doing it for my fulfillment. I mean, at the end of the day, what happened? Basically, one more lawfare on Swamiji. Like, he has never even stepped into the soil of Gujarat for more than 10 years. And he was persecuted over there, saying that he was kidnapped. He was alleged to kidnap children, which is like completely blatant lie. And at the end of the day, he had to go through that whole lawfare just to fulfill a being, who wants to explore this certain possibility. I mean, after that is one level. Another level is, if I just think of women who goes to prison and come back, how would a family treat, or how would the society treat? Let's have an honest discussion, right? Honest thinking process. Maybe family will not say it out, but they would really be ashamed. They would always be careful about what the girl is going to do next. The society will naturally, look you down, put you down. This is what exactly how you will be treated in a society, and probably in families also. They may not say it out if it is a good family, but they are not going to encourage you. Surely they will not encourage you. But with Swamiji, it's like, what to say? Even after I came back from prison, he only empowered me. There is no reason why I should be empowered, why I should be, allowed to try whatever I want. Nothing like that. He only empowered. It was not any strategic decision, right? That is exactly how a family would respond, or any relationship would respond, how a society would respond. But with Swamiji, it was never a strategic decision. It is only to fulfill everyone, fulfill a being, and for fulfilling that being and making that being experience enlightenment, he would go through any amount of sacrifice. He never thinks about whether it is strategically right for him or right for anybody, nothing like that. It is all about how you can fulfill the being. That level of sacrifice and commitment for the love of humanity. I think for that you should do everything possible. And not just me. I just feel that all the Hindus out there, for the sacrifice that Swamiji is doing, everything, whatever is possible at your disposal, we should all come together and do it. Because, like what Atmadaya was saying about that one picture, right? Now, as you were telling, I could just visualize that picture, and all the torture that Swamiji went through. They literally sleep deprived him. They force fed beef to him. He could not do puja. He could not eat. He was given lethal injections that in fact gave him cardiac arrest, right? So when he was going through so much, there is no reason for him to come and put that smile. It's just for us to feel, yes, Swamiji is safe. Swamiji is doing good. Just for devotees and disciples to feel comforted, just for that, he does all of that. And even during that kind of a torturous prison period, as soon as Swamiji came out of the illegal imprisonment, the first thing that he gave the world was the science of levitation, science of materialization, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, all the great revelations. He never stepped back because he was persecuted, right? He only showed life positive ferociousness. That is something truly, truly inspiring, and I really feel there is so much to learn, and so much to learn, and so much to life is worth living if you stand with Swamiji, and life is worth living if you stand with Kailasa. Nothing like that. It's not just me. I really feel all the women out there. if you really want to experience your true self, what you can do, what you can experience in your life, what are the different possibilities that you have in your life, you just have to be with Kailasa. You just have to be with Swamiji. You'll only then you'll realize so much you can express, so much you can do, which you have never ever tasted in your life before. And it is only Swamiji who can unconditionally empower you, unconditionally make you feel loved. So this is what I wanted to share about today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ma. So beautifully and passionately said. And your of course I've seen your journey, and whatever you have said is absolutely aligned, and I experienced that as an onlooker, because I wasn't there physically with you, but just through the whole journey, whatever you've said is absolutely aligned with how I was experiencing it as well. That why you would have said a yes in many ways to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, because as you said, every little desire is fulfilled, and many times there are times when the desire is so deep, even I can just about hear it, and before I know it, it's manifested.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. Because many times we don't even have that guts to verbalize. It just feels like it's sprouting before even we think about it and verbalize it, whether it is going to get fulfilled or not. He is the ultimate God. He just tells, okay, you go and try it out. Just do this. So that's the true empowerment, right? Where you don't even need to think about whether it is going to happen, not happen. I mean, just think about the families. If you want to go and do theater, if you want to do arts, how much you have to sit and convince all the parents, how much you have to sit and convince all the neighborhood, this is my passion, I have to do this. Nobody empowers you the way how Swamiji, like you said, desires, which is just sprouting, those desires, Swamiji pick up and then say, okay, just empowers us. That's the ultimate compassion, and absolutely no strategy. It is never a strategic decision whether this person is going to be successful or not successful. It's all about how much this being is going to get fulfilled and how I can lead this being to enlightenment. That's the only it's like uncompromising love, I would say. Truly, I really feel every woman should experience this. No human being can miss this unconditional love and empowerment from Swamiji.
Yes, and as you're saying it, what is coming as an image is that everything that ties us is like the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has got these scissors, and then all the things that tie us is just cutting away all the ties and liberating, just liberating and saying, "Go fly, just go fly and do your thing." And literally taking away all the fear and impossibility and negativity that we are normally bound up by, and that we stop ourselves from living our dreams. What we set out as goals is many just stay as a as something that we've wanting to do at some point, just stays as a concept, if you like. But there, where we are here at the moment, I would not have dreamt of going to the United Nations. Probably, felt like maybe fantasized about it somewhere, some deep corner, and definitely thought it's impossible. And there, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has just said, go. And the flight is booked and you're there. And it's just that, with that ease and simplicity, that nothing stays as a fantasy, it becomes a reality. It doesn't even need to be a dream that one day I'm going to do it. No, it is happening right now, and it doesn't have to have such a long period of time as well. Yes, Ma Pranapriya, thank you so much for sharing. I'll go back to Ma Vijaya Priya now, because we lost you for a little bit because of a technical error. Thank you, and thank you for coming back. Please, would you share what is it, because you had started sharing, what are the principles that keep you, what are the key things that keep you here with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism? You decide for being here. What?
Yes. So simply put, if it were not for the empowering guidance and the unconditional love of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, I would never have had the confidence in the first place, to proudly represent my authentic Hindu identity at the United Nations, adorned in the traditional Hindu attire. So the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has really instilled in me a deep understanding and an appreciation for the greatness of Hinduism and the power of Hinduism, what all Hinduism can share to the world. He's provided me with the unwavering support and encouragement that I need to express myself fully. And with his blessings and guidance, I have come to realize, the immense potential that I possess as a Hindu woman and as a human being, and the impact, Hindu women can make towards a peace-oriented and stable societies. And for his love, for his compassion and support, I am really forever grateful to him. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ma Vijayapriya. Ma Vijayapriya Nithyananda, thank you so much for sharing. And absolutely, this what you shared, that love and the freedom we feel to just be ourselves, not to be anybody else, but whoever I came here to express myself to be. I have the freedom and expression to do that, right? That's what I'm getting empowered for. I don't need, see, the way I see it is, I don't need to be like somebody. Like, I don't need to be like you. I can be myself, you be yourself. There is no competition, and there is enough space for all of that expression to happen. So it's very comfortable and amazing space to just be ourselves, right? Yes, thank you so much, Ma, for sharing. Now we're coming towards the end, and I promised you all, whoever is watching, that I will share for myself what is it that keeps me here with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Now, for myself, I've gone through quite a tough childhood. I won't go into the details of it, but I was very close. There's quite a lot of violence that I had gone through and I experienced, and layers of it for many, many years in different forms. And I was definitely parked up in, I'm a victim. I was very much parked up into this, in the space of I'm a victim. And I had closed, if there was even a tiny bit of possibility that somebody could hurt me, I would close up very quickly. And I had a I don't know what thickness the wall was. I can't tell you the thickness of the wall which was kept between me and people as protection. And I have felt that over this time that I've been with Swamiji, with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, he's showed me how to drop that wall, break that wall, because I had to break that wall from inside me and allow more and more connection with people around me to happen. If it wasn't for the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and the love, if it wasn't for the love that I've experienced, I would never have opened up. I would have quite happily been bitter in the world, and and quite justified, and quite a lot of me was numb to the violence that I'd gone through. But it's only because of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism I've allowed myself to flower and give life another chance, true chance, and say, okay, you know what, whatever has happened. Now let me decide to live again, truly live again. Otherwise, everything in my life was set up to self-destruct. It's only because of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and the love, so much love and respect that I have experienced from Swamiji towards myself. And it's if it wasn't for that, I promise you, I wouldn't have opened up. I was quite happy to be closed, shrunk, and being in some corner. I went through phases. Like, there was one part of me that was very withdrawn. It was extremely withdrawn from life, and I didn't want to engage. I dropped that identity, picked up another identity, decided to be something else, went through many different identities for myself. And then finally it came to a fight. I in 2009 it became like, I'm gonna fight everything. So a different phase of my life, but all of my, whether it's a fight inside, outside, everything has dissolved. Really, I feel incredibly grateful to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism that he found me, and that I'm here, able to say that life is a celebration. This is the Hindu lifestyle. Life is a celebration, and that's a powerful cognition that I feel I get to experience every day. So that is my why. And there are many more whys. But as we come to the end, there's, all of you would have heard of this story. I'm sure you've heard this story of the 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. Now, there was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. And anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. And somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. And everybody thought that anybody could do it. But nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. I'm sure you have heard this story. Now, we are actually in this situation when it comes to the Hindu revival, Hindu persecution, all of this that's happening right now. This applies to all of us because generally humanity has become accustomed and trained to think that somebody else is going to fix the problem. And that's how the education system works. That's how just everything in society works. Right now, that somebody is the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, who has stood up and decided to be the voice for the 2 billion Hindus. Do something about the persecution that not only the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has faced, but also that the Hindus have faced for such a long time, right? So now, would you want to be in this story where we think that somebody is always going to do this? And then when that somebody does stand up, then we decide to persecute that somebody and bring that somebody down as well? Or are we going to decide to be counted, for our life to be counted, for the purpose of our life to be counted, right? So here is an opportunity. You've heard, all of you that are viewing right now, you've heard all the esteemed guests, panelists come and share what's happened for them, how persecution has happened for them, how they're being shamed. You've heard all of this. Why don't you come and join and be part of a cause where you can make a difference? To sign up, it's sksjp.org/contribute. Just as my concluding part, I'd like to invite everybody to be part, whoever is watching, to sign up. Sign up at the link that is being projected for you, sksjp.org/contribute. It's true, anybody can go to the United Nations, but not everybody has gone. Okay, so when the way is being paved, then why not join in and come together as a collective and stand up and be one voice for the Hindu enlightened ecosystem to be revived fully. Thank you so much to all of you that have been watching, that have been commenting, that have participated on YouTube, on Facebook, on all live platforms. Thank you genuinely for your efforts. Would like to conclude this session now with this segment with the Purna Mantra. And the deepest gratitude to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam. Let's end with the Purna Mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Bhagavate Shri Nithyananda Paramashiva Padukarpanamastu. Om Nithyanandam. Thank you all, and thank you to all the panelists. Nithyanandam.